Okay, so we are live. Great. I hope everything is working now. We had a bit of hiccup for the first 5-10 minutes. So in today's live session, we invited Jaroslav Kasina, who is the co-founder and CEO of SophiaTX. And the purpose of today's live session is to give you a bit more information about the ICOs that are currently ongoing and to give you more details and more insights about the interesting ICOs that are currently in the world. So I would like to introduce first myself. My name is Ondřej Pilný. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ICOindex, which is a platform to give our members and community members better investment recommendations and to give them more insights about ICOs. And today, this is the first Q&A live session. So if there are like some hiccups, or if there is something that you would like to suggest us to improve, just write us in the comments or send me a message, and then for the next time we can improve that. So for the beginning, I would like to welcome Jaroslav. And could you tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your background, what you were working on in the past? So.
All right. So for those people that have not watched or haven't seen anything, I'm Jaroslav Kasina. I have been working on a blockchain now for about a year. Before that, I got about 20 years of experience. I worked for the companies like McKinsey, Deloitte, Ernst & Young. I also was a divisional CIO for a $12 billion company in Switzerland. And I've been working all 20 plus years in the technology and innovation space. I lived through the .com, and I started first time with computers on the Atari 800 for some people that still remember that. But today, last year, we actually worked with a team to look into how we could advance the blockchain into the actual businesses for proper business innovation. And this is how the project of SophiaTX was born. We came public with this project in late September. And now we have a token generation event ongoing, which just started as we speak.
Okay, that's really interesting. It seems like you have a lot of experience, and it seems like you're a very experienced person to join the blockchain space. So we're really glad to have you as part of the community. So first, I would like to ask you, do you remember the first time when you heard about Bitcoin and blockchain technology? What were your first thoughts back then? Were you the first time believer, or did you have some doubts about it?
I'll be very frank. It was about two and a half years ago. One of my colleagues was trying to explain to me what the blockchain is versus Bitcoin, and I just couldn't understand why would people pay that much money. And this is not like today. This is a long time ago. Why would people pay for a code? No matter how unique, but it's a piece of software. So it was a very, very interesting concept once I started to understand. But it took me, I would say, quite some time to understand not just the coin, but there was no one that could clearly explain the distinction between the Bitcoin at that time and an actual blockchain. So it took me, I would say, several dinners with this younger version of me, a colleague of mine, which was very, very patient with me, trying to explain it to me. So, and a year later into it, I got way more excited. And then I realized it actually has a much bigger potential beyond just the Bitcoin, but more into the distributed ledger technologies. It's about 2.5 years.
So you heard first about Bitcoin 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So what do you think are the first industries that could be disrupted by the blockchain technology? Because now we see a lot of projects that are claiming that they will use blockchain to disrupt the new industry. And what do you think from your perspective will be the first industries that will be disrupted by blockchain?
Look, this is a difficult question to pick one particular industry, because I don't think it's going to happen in one particular industry. I have a view where people believe that financial industry has been most disrupted or whatever because people work in a fintech. And I think that there is a certain merit to the fact that financial industry, whether it's banking, insurance, or others, can actually be improved, reshaped, or even disrupted. However, they have a very long legislative cycle. So I actually believe there are other industries which have much shorter legislative cycle, and it could be anything from pharma to energy industry to construction and engineering. So we actually started looking into the non-fintech industries which do not have these barriers. And when we thought about kind of speed to market in supply chain or other areas, we actually believe that it can be much more disruptive once people will realize that what's the potential of the blockchain and distributed ledger.
So are you saying that the SophiaTX is more focused on non-finance companies?
Yeah, we actually focused on we worked for about 8-9 months before we even considered blockchain or anything before we went public. And we started our work with doing a strategy and technology assessment. So in another way, commercial viability. To simply to answer two questions: do we understand the market, and do we have a product for it, or vice versa? Do we have a market and a product and a market? And we actually focused on purpose for the non-fintech. There's a lot of fintech hype, and we couldn't catch up, but we tried to look beyond fintech. And what we have realized was that we were able to find many cases, and what they want is to kind of get away from the coins and say, okay, how can I use it differently? And when we looked into what we call speed to market, we realized it's faster than in fintech. So we have focused on the non-fintech because it's white space. Not many companies are looking into it, but also because our technology background is in implementing large-scale SAP systems, ERP systems, Oracle. So in another way, large industrial companies' systems. And we realized that that's a way better place to be.
Okay. So if you look in this part of the industry, what do you perceive as the biggest hurdles that the companies are currently facing, and why do they need actually blockchain, or what will be the main advantage for non-fintech companies to use SophiaTX as their blockchain platform?
One of the biggest things is simply understanding. Today, I just finished a couple hours ago, I just finished a call with a Swiss company, which heard about blockchain. They don't know what it is. They would like to explore. So I'm not going to mention who they are, but the biggest hurdle is actually understanding there's a technology which can change the way companies do business, but they just don't know it yet. It's like it really reminds me 20 years ago when everybody was registering .com domains just to be on the internet, but they didn't know what it is, how to use it. Some companies figured it out, and the same thing is today. Blockchain is not understood. Distributed ledger as such is not understood, and that's the first hurdle. And then once they understand it, they understand the use cases for it or how to apply it in a business, then I think it's going to take off. And that's also how we adopted our strategy. First, technology is out there. We just need to make it suitable for business, but it's more working with the clients in business innovative way.
So if I would compare, for example, SophiaTX to other blockchain platforms, what do you consider or perceive the biggest imperfection of the current blockchain platforms? Why they cannot be used for the companies that are non-fintech, for example, IOTA or Ethereum? There are many blockchain platforms already. So how is SophiaTX different from
there is no single I would say factor as such, even though there are multiple. So if I look into blockchain as a technology, businesses have a number of, I would say, compliance and regulatory and other reasons to apply, while blockchain very often is simply a new innovative way, but it has not been fit for purpose today. So to give you an example, as simple as recovery of private keys. Companies cannot be in a situation, if you lose private keys, I cannot use a software. This is unacceptable. So there has to be a workaround or solution for that. Second one is, for example, documents. Our blockchain has to have an off-chain storage so that you don't have millions or billions of documents, because they would basically, when it would go to the halt, it would just stop. Another one is we cannot be exposed, or companies cannot be exposed to the digital kittens or crypto kittens suddenly slowing down Ethereum to the point where you cannot do transactions. Lots of other things. We actually describe this in our white paper, in our technology roadmap. So companies, for example, need to retain the documents. if I stop using the blockchain, I can need to have an extract, and I need to keep my version of the documents, etc., for the audit purposes, for the tax purposes, for the compliance, etc. So there are features today that are not supported. We originally actually did not intend to build blockchain. We intended to use blockchain for business. And for 4, 5, 6 months, we realized there was not a single one that we would say, okay, let's use that one for the business. So we were forced to do also the bottom layer, which is kind of what we call a transaction layer, which is the ledger, because there was none. And we looked into Ethereum, of course, the Bitcoin, and many others. And today, what's happening to us is very often when we go to conferences, we talk to people, and they say, we're going to build on Ethereum or others. Then they start talking to us, and they say, can we actually build on Sophia? I said, guys, yes, but it's not ready yet. We only have a testnet.
So who are these companies that already come to you and they are interested?
I'm not going to disclose because we have not. There was at least 4 or 5 that we've talked to previously. These were blockchain startups. I mean, we do have signed a letter of intent with actual business clients, which we've published. We've published 1. I have 2, which I'm not allowed to talk about because the external communications has not approved that. So, for example, pharmaceutical distribution company in the Middle East called Kita Logistics. They want to do pharma track and trace, a pure supply chain traceability solution. Supply chain is a very nice area actually to go to. It's not that complex. You connect the IoT sensors for monitoring during the transport, and blockchain provides the transparency and peer-to-peer exchange. So that's just briefly an example.
Okay, and it sounds really interesting. So are there also other companies that you could disclose that are already interested in using SophiaTX?
I can speak generically about some. I cannot use the names. So look, the problem is this. Before I do, it's a disclaimer a little bit. These are corporations which are publicly listed companies. Their external communications are very often restricted. So because it could be influencing their stock or trading techniques, whatever. So we have to respect the way they want to go to public. And also it's very early stage. So they're not committing to anything. So we have to respect that. But having said that, one example is where we have a company which is, we're discussing with one of the leaders in there, that they do a lot of maintenance projects for utilities. And for example, organizing large complex maintenance schedule where you have lots of providers and service organizations and outsourcing, coordination, lots of people is where the blockchain provides transparency in a multi-party, multi-company environment. You can coordinate the maintenance, the schedule, the transparency. It provides the efficiency. So it's almost the same way as you do effective coin transfer, but in this case, you do effective project information coordination. And because they serve multiple clients and they work with many vendors, blockchain provides a very good platform to synchronize their information.
Okay, it seems like your platform has really a lot of usages, and there are already companies that are planning to use the platform. So it seems like this is not just another project that has no usage. So it's really interesting to know that there are already companies that want to use SophiaTX. But let's have a look from the tokenization perspective. So SophiaTX is currently having an ICO, and what is the purpose to have an ICO like compared to other ways to fund the project? Why did you choose ICO as to fund?
It's a brilliant question, and so first of all, blockchain is meant to be peer-to-peer exchange across the value chain or across the industry, and if we would build it as a proprietary, it wouldn't be public, and it would be more restrictive, and therefore small and mid-sized businesses would have a cost issue, a kind of a barrier entry to the business if it's just an expensive software. So we wanted to build it as public because that's what we believe is the right disruptive and right innovative approach. So in that environment, as a public, we actually wanted to start where even small businesses, and not even small business, but small business and large business working with consumers. So it becomes really connected ecosystem all the way from business to consumer. that it's a connectable across. So we really choose public. We wanted to follow the blockchain revolution as it's pushing more for openness and open source and connectivity. And we believe that's the right approach. Now, of course, there has to be certain restrictions and professionalism in place. And we believe that we wanted to give a chance to public to participate. We consider it more like a seed A or seed B, because we already invested quite a lot until now. The team has been working for almost a year now. Actually, it has been a year. So this was the right approach. We did comparison to other large software providers or blockchain disruptors, but they're building private consortium, which is making it expensive, making it closed, not disruptive enough, and not, I would say, powerful enough for the future.
Okay, that's a good. From my perspective, that's a good approach. And I agree that blockchain projects should be open source, because if I look at a lot of big companies, they are trying to build their own closed source blockchains, and I don't think that this is the future. So, from my perspective, open source blockchain platforms will be the future. Even though there will be a lot of projects that try to create their own, I think open source will in the long term. But if we look at the token that you are issuing, what is the utility of the token, or what is the purpose of the token?
It's no different. It's no different from any other blockchains. I mean, token carries the value which is used to basically compensate the miners. Miners actually do provide computing capacity. It's as simple as that. So if I'm a user of something which has to function, so token is a subscription fee where it's an exchange of value between the miners and the users, and it's as simple as that. Then the logic of the blockchain will allow to use it in many different ways. In addition to just mining, can be used as a subscription to the platform or exchange of value between the programmers and the people that are actually kind of buying connectivity to the platform. So it's effectively working as a software license, as a transferable software license in our case. And again, because the blockchain is more of an open development environment, that software license can be applied in many different ways and how it exchanges the value.
So the SophiaTX tokens will be used as a payment for the license to use the blockchain platform. Is that correct?
From legal perspective, I'd like to stay away from the payment, but it does create an exchange of services and a value, correct?
Okay. Do you know if in the US your token is perceived as an equity or as a security?
It's a utility token. We try to avoid to have anything remotely to security. This is no equity relationship at this stage. And if we would do anything in future, there would be a separate funding round for the equity. But right now, token is simply utility token representing rights to use the software.
Mm-hmm. And the technology as it's built now, is it based on a different technology, on a different blockchain platform, or have you started working on this from scratch?
In our project, because we put together two basically teams, one with a blockchain technology know-how and one from the business systems and business transformation know-how. So when we did start working, we worked with a company called Decent from their foundation in Switzerland, but they have delivery center in Bratislava and China, Shanghai. And so we worked with them, and what we have realized, they have a very good starting point for us because they use delegated proof of stake, which is fast, efficient, and good. This was based on the MIT Graphene's protocol and etc. And it provided us capabilities that we can build from. So it didn't provide any constraints, but a really solid foundation. So we're actually taking a hard fork. This is an open source, so there is no licensing or anything. But what we do is by combining the two capabilities of two teams actually is giving us advantage because they already have gone through the cycle launching their own Decent blockchain. But this is SophiaTX is a proprietary, starting from scratch or from Decent, but it's on its own independent blockchain, and it's built on, as I said, DPoS mining mechanism and Graphene as a foundational layer.
So did you consider also other blockchain platforms before you have chosen?
We started, I mean, in all transparency, we started with Ethereum because it's easy to install, takes you a few minutes, literally. You can put it on a laptop, on a server, whatever you want. It's great for prototyping. But we very quickly realized that the complexity and the Turing complete and the complexity of smart contract would be perceived as not secure by the businesses, because the higher the complexity, that means it's harder to audit, it's harder to prevent from mistakes, and that as a business, previous business executive, I just would not accept, and I think industry would have a hard time to do that. I think Ethereum is great for the token generation and what has done. I mean, it's an amazing, phenomenal success. But for business application, which needs speed, security, and simplicity, we actually needed to dumb it down to what I would call transactional layer rather than a complex smart contract complexity. I don't think the businesses are ready to jump that far yet. We can evolve there, but I think we need to start from something which is more secure, fast, and as I said, more compatible with the business.
Okay. Previously in the mail communication, you mentioned that SophiaTX as a platform can be divided into 3 layers. Could you elaborate a bit more and tell our viewers to understand the concept?
There are 3 things or 3 items that we need to in order to adopt the blockchain well. So one is the blockchain itself, the distributed ledger, which is open source and completely available to others, and it works on its own. But for people to actually connect it to systems, so that's IT departments or consultants, they need to have what I would call a programming or development platform. So that's where they develop the APIs or process designs, etc., and then they publish them and push them onto the chain. So effectively, the development platform is where we teach a lot of IT consultants and IT departments to use the blockchain. Then they can publish it, and then within the development platform, you have basically an app store. So that's the marketplace, so that they don't always have to start from scratch. They can buy for tokens from each other, half code or finished products or apps, and then that creates a much stronger ecosystem for adoption of the blockchain.
And how is, for example, the transparency of the blockchain in the case of SophiaTX? For example, if you have a look at Ethereum, all the transactions are transparent. Everyone can see in the Blocks Explorer all the transactions that happened in the past throughout the history. But from the perspective of companies, they will need a blockchain where these transactions are not transparent. For example, they want to make sure that no one can see how much value has been transacted. So how is this one going to be on SophiaTX?
That's one of the things why we did the proof of concept. We wanted to make sure that we can apply proper encryption. So before data gets into the blockchain, it's actually fully encrypted on both sides, sender and receiver. And then also, so you can apply different ways to encrypt. And then we also have to be able to somehow encrypt the fact that people cannot do a bit of let's call it espionage, where they see that the number of parties are transacting with each other too much. So when you define what we call use cases, you need to determine what you want to have public, which information, and which information needs to be hidden from the public. And that's where we apply different encryption techniques. We're working with actually some experts in this field, with encryption experts. And so this is one of the features which we have done in the proof of concept, but we want to allow multiple encryption techniques to be applied to the blockchain.
So for instance, if there are 2 companies transacting between each other and they don't want any information to be publicly visible, they don't want to be visible, for example, with whom they are interacting or any information, is that possible on the SophiaTX platform?
Yes, it is. I mean, first of all, you can provide what I would call a ghost, let's say, address, which still is on the address. You see that something has happened, but you cannot read the information and you cannot relate that these are the trading partners. So for example, the demo we have done the encryption, for example, of a document. So in our demo, we have done invoice from company to company going through the testnet to the blockchain, but all the information on the invoice is fully encrypted, so you cannot read it. You still can see, in our proof of concept, you still can see that these companies send something to each other.
Mhm.
In case we need to set up the direct channels where you want to kind of hide it from the public, that's also a more advanced feature that we need to build in. But that's more of a one-to-one messaging, should I say. So some of these actually topics Hyperledger is trying to solve. However, Hyperledger is a great collaboration of many businesses, but the way it works is that many of those businesses will take the Hyperledger techniques or packages, and they will kind of build it into their own proprietary blockchains, whether it's IBM, SAP, or the others. And very often they end up on this blockchain as on a cloud, or blockchain as a service on a cloud. So this is where we have a different approach from those people. But we definitely want to make sure we reuse the best practices and a lot of this know-how which is out there. That's the nice thing being in the open source. You can actually use that.
So the proof of concept that you mentioned, is it already available somewhere? Can people view the code?
Yes, because it's complex to transact in a system, we produced a video. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes on a YouTube. It's extremely ugly because you're looking at the system transacting with the system, so it's nothing wonderful. It's not like watching a great cartoon, but it's up there. It's on a video. It's on our channel. If there are questions and some people really would like to see it, we can do a live demonstration. That's not a problem. Like tomorrow, for example, I know our CTO is sitting down with someone from a large corporation, sitting him down, walking through it. But that's more for the serious interest, because it's hard to show the system. It's not fully public yet. And most of the people would not know how to put an invoice into an SAP system and then suddenly how to look at it that it went through the blockchain. It's not that easy to see.
Okay, I understand. I'm one of the persons that wouldn't know.
There's a video with the explanation on our SophiaTX channel. It's on a YouTube. For those which do want to spend 6 minutes of their life watching it, please do.
Okay, great. So could you also tell a bit more about the ICO that you are having? What is the maximum limit that you are planning to raise in the first kind of session? Or
yeah, I would like to stay away from this topic too much because it's ongoing. We started a TGE token generation event. I think earlier today. It's going to last 10 days. All the information is on the website SophiaTX.com. So I want to stay away from any promotional or investment type of I would say advice or anything. That's not what we do. For those interested, I would suggest look it up. There is a very strict KYC and AML procedures for those interested. So please follow them. Read all the books. It's a project to look at, but I'm going to leave it for everybody else to judge. I apologize, but I don't want to be promoting an investment or anything like that. That's no other than legal reasons.
Yeah, I understand that your approach, because as we always say, in all the token generation events, all cryptocurrencies are very risky investment. So always invest only what you are willing to lose, and never invest in things that you don't understand. So if you will consider SophiaTX as a possible investment, always look up all the information about the project, and before you put any ether in it.
I think that in a certain way we have to find a way to I would say a little bit distinguish ourselves from the hype, because almost like taking it to the blockchain 2.0, which is that there is fundamentals in place and proper discipline and respect for the laws and regulations, and these are I think the signs that people should be looking for. We try to do our best. The regulatory environment is still very, very unclear, and then that's why it's important to stay careful on both sides. People that do participate and people that do these things. But as I said, our focus is on taking distributed ledger technologies to the real business. We're very much focused on building the product, taking the product to the market. For us, the token generation event is just a small event, and we just need to get back to work.
Okay, that's great. Before we even started this live session, we had a website which is called Slido, where people could post all different questions. So now I'm looking at the website, and there are a few questions from our audience. So the first question is, how many developers do you have? Do you think technical aspect is the strong point of your team?
That's a good question. We actually work as two companies together. We work with Decent on a blockchain, which has a proven capability. We have a hiring pipeline for a number of people already directly for SophiaTX. So we're safe on the blockchain side. On the systems equally, I mean, I used to have hundreds of people in my portfolio, which I directly manage. We have enough talent to take from the market. So, we don't feel there is a problem in terms of the solution. If I have to look at the success of the potential project or potential business, what is really important is actually have a capability to take it to market. And that's where we need to build up even, I would say, consulting and advisory services. We started our discussion into explaining the business, how to use blockchain, how to take it to the market, etc. It's not about just the product. It's about taking the product and taking it to the market, and then from that perspective, building it into a sustainable operational business.
Okay. So we have a next question. And the question is, does your project intend to cooperate with other business platforms such as Atlassian, Salesforce, HubSpot, and what is your motivation to build SophiaTX on Decent? I think there are two questions. So first,
right. So I started talking about building from Decent gave us the solid foundation because it uses DPoS. We have the know-how, we have the team. We can build it into something which is business suitable. As I said, there was a number of features, and I think we tried to explain in our white paper and a number of other blogs. I would be happy to follow up, but we felt that this graphene from MIT plus the recent know-how gave us really good starting point. But the second part, which is that is, just remind me, what was it was mixed up a little bit here.
Yeah, the first question was, does your project intend to cooperate with other business platforms?
Right.
Atlassian,
definitely, because we work in an ecosystem, and a blockchain is a connectivity layer in principle. So we started talking about SAP. We're independent of SAP, even though that's where we have the strong know-how, but we equally plan to work with Oracle, with JD Edwards, with Salesforce, or any other business system. And that's why the development platform, where you can have a library of APIs and working through a lot of partners, not just us, but also build an ecosystem where other consulting or IT partners just basically put stuff in the library and just use SophiaTX as a wider platform. We consider this to be more of an infrastructure project at this stage than just a point solution or one song banjo.
Okay, I think I will take two more questions. And one question is here from Mike, and he's saying, we use ERP and CRM in our company. How can SophiaTX help us?
Hi, Mike. Anyway, look, there's many companies use ERP, CRM, and they have to look into the particular use cases. Because, for example, if you have an ERP, and it depends what type of business you're in. If you're a manufacturing business, then you could probably communicate with your supplier around quality engineering or manufacturing, better collaboration. If you're a supply chain company, then you can have much better exchange of information on tracking, on transparency, on replenishment, on coordination of the fleet, etc. If you're in the energy industry or project-heavy industry, you could better collaborate the project schedules, utilization of the people, etc. So I would strongly encourage to read the white paper. If you do have particular questions, actually, there was a few people from Telegram and other social media which approached me directly and says, can you help me with looking into how our company could use this? So we're more than happy. Reach out to us. All contact information is on our website or other places. We can work with you, but we're building a Lego style platform where understanding the use cases is the key. So that's the answer. But it's ERP, CRM, it doesn't matter. Think of how can I effectively exchange information within the company or with other companies or even with our customers. That's what the blockchain is good for.
Okay, so we have one more question from an anonymous person, and he's asking, what is the roadmap for making the platform open source? Are you going to accept contribution from the open source community?
Absolutely. Look, there's two parts to that, because we've had questions already. Why is this not published on GitHub? And frankly, we worked on this for a year, and before we complete a certain amount of work, we're not going to disclose it too early. Okay, so our intent is to make it full, transparent, and open source, but there is a timing element to it, because we need to protect it. There is a lot of copy efforts in a blockchain community, if I can put it. One blockchain system, one blockchain team does something, and then it's copied within about 15 minutes and suddenly rebranded for another ICO. We don't want to do that. We work really hard to protect the product and people which believe in it. So we will release it at the right time. Once we release it, we will also we are actually in 2018, we'll be launching so-called early adoption program that is for clients and for the consulting partners or developing partners to work with us. So any company which has an interest, they need to reach out to us once we launch it in the next 1 or 2 months, and then we can collaborate openly together. There's nothing wrong. Actually, what we believe, there will be a lot of businesses which will build their own business on Sophia. And we wish them, a lot of best luck, if I can say that. That's good. That's what we want. We want this to become a much wider adoption than just a one-point solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that, because if I look on the major blockchain projects, I see that the biggest ones, such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have the most amount of forks. For example, Bitcoin has more than, I think, 2,000 of forks, that most of them have already failed. But if someone is copying other projects, it actually shows that the project is useful, because most people, they want to copy something that is already useful, interesting, and they want to build on something that has a very good code.
Yeah. There's a one part to that, because in our case, blockchain is not isolated from the other half, which is how do I connect blockchain to the system. And this is where we also have to be respectful. We need to develop a number of these connectors or APIs, but those could be in many cases very specific to a particular company, their own system. So giving a blockchain as such, that's generic. We will develop a number of these features, as we said, encryption and da-da-da. But then there is another layer which needs to go into the marketplace, and that's going to be available in there. But some things we have to protect through IP and other stuff. So that's the half which we don't control as a company or as a project. This is control under the client's IP protection rights.
Okay. I will have a look in the ICO Facebook group if there are any questions in the comments. So just give me a second. I don't actually see any comments in the ICO Facebook group. So just a second, I will ask my colleague to forward me any questions that have raised. Yeah, so we have one more question. Can you share how will you scale to 2,000 TPS? I think it would be better to first explain if what is 2,000 TPS. Because I'm not sure what is that.
I know. I can answer.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 2,000 transactions per second. Actually, this is when we started working with friends from Decent. This is one of the things they already had working. So I cannot explain. You would have to ask these people which understand machine code. But we already have been operating at 2,000 transactions per second, and with a number of selective nodes. This is one of the benefits of going for a delegated proof of stake, which is way faster compared to the proof of work used by Ethereum and Bitcoin, where the complexity and speed is by design slow to make it harder. Well, DPO is a version of a point of stake which is delegated, which is a subset. That way you actually have only selective number of nodes. It allows you to do blocks much faster. It allows you to limit the size of the block because we keep documents off the chain. So these are just a few features. Even encryption is happening on the client side before it enters the chain. So we actually did talk about 2,000 transactions per second already 6 months ago. We haven't done proper certifications yet. We are the testnet. We actually believe we can drive this number way higher. But again, I don't want to promise. Our objective is to get it up to about 10,000 transactions per second minimum, because we're talking business transactions. We have to have a volume.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this session? Would you like to tell something to our viewers? Is there any other thing that you would like to comment or mention about SophiaTX that hasn't been mentioned yet?
The only thing I would like to really mention here is that, and this is more of a personal note to all the blockchain fanatics and fans. Try to distinguish truly the crypto craziness that's going on from the blockchain as a technology, because it has a wonderful potential, and I'm afraid at some point it will be ruined by this craziness that's going on. So I think it's really, really important to stay firmly on the ground and really do the fundamentals every time you look at anything in this space, and try to really see beyond the coins. That's my only expression here.
Okay, thank you very much, Yaroslav. So this was our first live session on the ICO Initial Coin Offerings Facebook group, and we will be hosting more of them, so stay in the group and we will keep you updated with other events. Thank you very much, Yaroslav. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.